Hello guys, this is Sueyo Almeida. Welcome to Major's Garage. Today we're gonna do a lap here at Montreal Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, and yeah, let's start right away. So the first corner, I have a reference here. We first see this 2 sign, and then we see the 1 sign. So the 1 sign is actually just at this grass here. So it's the grass that basically ends this first wall before the next access road. So this is my reference. Let me see. So when you're coming here, you see the 2. There is this first uh, gray space between the grass, then another one, and then the third grass, which is the 1 sign. That's where I look when I'm starting to brake. I want to have my maximum pressure when it starts. So you see, I'm actually starting to brake slightly before, if we see it like that. So you can see that is a lot before, but that's because we always have a reference, and then we start braking slightly before. So my pressure reached the maximum right here. So you can see it's very close to the maximum already, but it keeps increasing a little bit here. So that's exactly when I reach where I reach my maximum pressure. So if we see if we see full speed, of course, it's a little bit. You see, it's not too far away actually. So again, let's see in full speed in cockpit view. So yeah, you can see how I'm actually using this as a reference. I'm just braking slightly earlier, maybe 2 or 3 cars before. So I actually want to brake on a straight line to decrease the speed just a little bit. And when I see this last grass here, actually after the access road, so you can see we're actually braking quite quickly here. We start braking here, but after the end of the access road, I'm already starting to turn very, very gently. I don't want to be too aggressive on this curve here. You can see that I am getting the curve but not the red part. If you see like that, you see how tall is how tall is the curve and how low is this red part here. So there's a big fall here, and if you clip the inside tire over this second layer, it really unsettles the car and you spin. So we really want to avoid that. We can get a little bit of the curve but not being too aggressive. So I want to have full brake power here, and as I start turning in, I release the brakes, and turn more. I release the brakes and turn more. I release the brakes and turn more until I get into the apex, and then you can see that by here I'm just letting the car roll with no throttle, no brakes. If you're afraid or maybe just looking for more consistent, you may end up braking slightly earlier here, and you will find yourself on a smaller speed here, a lower speed here. This way you will be able, if you feel that you will be able to get a little bit back on the throttle to recover that speed that you lost on entry, and then you will have to brake again. In my case, I didn't need to get back on the throttle because the car was already fast enough, so I could just wait a little bit, then position my car for the next corner. And you see how I don't really brake quickly. Again, I am increasing my pressure as I decrease my steering angle. So more pressure, less steering angle, more pressure, less steering angle. So this is the maximum brakes, and then as I start turning to the other side, I will decrease the brakes. Less pressure, more steering angle, less pressure, more steering angle. So what I do here is actually oh, I'm sorry, I can show this right here right now. I am shifting the grip usage from the steering wheel to the brakes, and then from the brakes back to the steering wheel. So if we see in slow motion, less steering wheel, more brakes, then I reach the peak of braking, and then I start turning to the other side and decrease the brakes. So we can see how we have this transition. If we see in full speed, you can see how it happens quite quickly. But it is there. It is definitely there. So you can see how I transition the grip usage, because if you want to just brake while turning to the other side, the car will lock up the front tires and you will go straight here, and you will lose a lot of time, because you really want to be very, very close to this inside curve so you can have a good exit. So I shift to first gear here, so 4-3, then second, and then I brake again in first to have a little bit more engine brakes. Now for the second one, you see how I'm really wanting to use the white line. Maybe here it was a little bit too dangerous. I wouldn't do that much on the race. I even did touch a little bit. You can see this green mark here. That's me touching the grass slightly. What we want is to be over the white line, not not over the grass. But what I do to make it easier is to bring the car quite earlier, very close to the white line, so you don't need to turn to the left before braking. So you can see how I'm just unwinding the wheel slightly to make the car very close to the white line, and then I brake at the 1 sign, actually slightly before the 1 sign, and slightly after the 1 sign I start turning. Here I want what my ideal point is this white penultimate white stripe here on the curb. You see how I miss a little bit, but that's actually the idea, to try to hit that bar. But if you're quick enough, you're probably slightly missing it. But by trying to be at this very end of this first curve, you will force the car to have a very good line. And then here you don't even need to lift too much. You see, I don't lift completely the car, and my exit is quite safe. Actually, could be a little bit closer, but for a race pace, that's very, very good. So again, braking on the white line, on a straight line for on a straight line slightly, of course, and then start turning. Don't carry too much brakes. You see how I even coast a little bit before getting back on the throttle. I want to get back on the throttle at the first apex, and then I don't want to lift it completely anymore. I just want to change direction quite aggressively, boom, so I could have a good exit here and carry a lot of speed to the small fast sector here. Now here you want to, we can see that we have grass, 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 and then no grass, and then we have the guardrail. So what we want is to actually bring the car, let me see, over to the other side of the white line after the grass ends, just a little bit. You see, by the entry I am with both tires to the right of the white line, so we have to actually point the car slightly to the outside when braking, so we can benefit from this wider entry, because this corner is quite tricky. Generally we end up being too quick on this first one and touching this curb too early. What we want to do though is to kill a little bit, sacrifice a little bit speed on the first one, and try to get a later apex on this first apex so we can have a good exit. Here at Montreal, it's all about getting a very good exit every time. So again, very patient and trying. Again, I try to look at this last part here of the inside red. I am missing it a little bit, you can see, but I'm close to it. That's the idea. You want to have a vision there. You want to plan your car. You want to try putting the car there, and if you slightly fail, you will still have a very good line. And then you see how here I don't need to lift too much, just slightly lifting the throttle to balance the car, not to lose the rear. Now for the next one, I want to be again touching the white line just a little bit. Maybe here was too much, because after that we have a grass, so we would need to, I actually had to bring the car a little bit back to the inside of the line, not to touch the grass. But again, the idea is that you are over the white line. Even after the grass starts, I'm actually still over. I'm starting to turn after the grass starts, not early. Many people actually feel that they need to turn slightly early. You can actually carry a little bit more the car over the white line even after the grass starts, and then you can turn. Here, ideally, we can use this curb. I missed it here, but I was able to carry a lot of speed, so it wasn't too bad. But you see how the curb has a part that is full of rubber, so that's where we can actually use it. It's on this chicane and the last chicane I will show you. It's much better to use the first curb and then get back on the throttle earlier and get less of the second curb. This may be an exception. I think here I am actually using a lot of the second curb because it's not unsettling the car. You can see I'm actually using a lot of the second curb. But on the last chicane it's gonna be a little bit different. Always when you get this second curb here, if you get too much like I did, on the way down the car will want to oversteer, so be ready for that and be ready to do slight corrections. If you just keep churning to the left after the car lands off the curb, you may spin, so be careful with that. Now onto the hairpin. So my braking point is slightly after the 2. I imagine that I'm going to brake halfway between the 2 and the 1. But as always, I'm braking slightly before. So as you can see, I'm actually starting to brake. Let's see that. Just a little bit after the 2, but my main pressure, my high pressure, my maximum pressure is halfway between the 2 and the 1. So same thing, I want to brake. I imagine myself braking very hard halfway between, but my maximum pressure is halfway between, so I start braking slightly before. Really focusing on stopping the car here. You really want to slow down the car as quick as we can, and then we want to do a very sharp entry so we could get back on the throttle early. This is a very late apex, so let's see how I do. So I turn, and when I get back on the throttle I want to carry as much speed as possible on exit. So that's why I really brake and I keep turning. It even feels like I'm not going to turn, I'm just missing the corner, but I'm not, so I'm actually just turning quite late, not trying not to hit the curb early. Maybe you don't even want to hit the curb at all, because it kind of makes the car bounce a little bit, and it may unsettle the car when you get back on the throttle. If you are bouncing, you may spin. So as you can see here, I am actually missing or avoiding the curb. Then very aggressive on the throttle. And for the last one, so that's the most difficult corner. I brake at the 2, as you can see here, and I want to downshift to third, then I turn in on third gear, and what I want to do is I want to catch more the first curve than the second. Now this is gonna be a very exaggerated example because I got a little bit too much. So let's see how I did it. So yeah, uh, ideally, like I said, we want to put the inside tire over the dark part of the curb. I did too much, and that made my car even almost unsettle the car. I got away with it, but that's too much. But ideally, that's what we want. We want to get a little bit the first curb and not get the second one. So on the second one, you see how I'm actually not riding over it too much. I am touching it, as you can see, but not too much. But the first one you want to get a little bit more. This corner really needs a lot of practice. Ideally, what I really want is to get back on the throttle after first apex and not need to lift it completely for the second apex. So you see how I get back on the throttle here, and then I'm actually maintaining the throttle because I have a good line for the exit. And here you can see how I was actually even oversteering a little bit and had to correct it, but I got away with it. So just to recap, 5 3 5 4 3. On the third gear we turn in, we get more of the first curve and less of the second curve. For me, that's the most reliable one, because if you try to get the second curve and you turn in too quickly, you may end up getting too much of the second curve and it will throw you to the right. It will throw the car to the wall. It happened to me a lot, and I think the most reliable way to do it right now in this season, with the way the car is in terms of physics, is to get more of the first one and less of the second one. So yeah, I hope this helped you guys, and yeah, see you next week. Bye.